G'day ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jazza and I've taken this picture Evan from Cartoonblock did of Krillin in the tutorial where he taught you how to draw Krillin, and I've turned it into a bit of a digital painting and a speed painting for you to enjoy. So I hope you enjoy it. If you're interested, there's a link in the description where you can check out the tutorial in which I go into more detail on how I painted this, and there's also the reference file provided so you can open it up in Photoshop and have a look for yourself. I also have a whole bunch of tutorials on my channel on flash animation, digital painting and a whole bunch of other stuff. So if you're interested, feel free to check it out and subscribe to Draw with Jazza on YouTube. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy this. So begin with the line work. Now, the construction lines and the basic sketch has been provided by Cartoonblock, and with that having been done already, we're going to the refine line work on top of that, which is basically tracing it and keeping our lines as smooth as possible, keeping things in mind like line weight variation and having the stylistic tone of the image held together through the refined line work. Now I'm doing this on a separate layer. You want to make sure to keep this separate to your sketch layer, because if they're merged, it's going to be much more difficult to refine things like color and remove those construction lines once you have the refined line work you're happy with. But once I've finished the line work, I've added a layer in between, which is a blank white, so you can see it's just isolated that. And now I'm going through and adding the color. So selecting with the magic wand and overlapping the lines so that it doesn't leave an unsightly white line, and then adding the colors through the image. So we've got the orange of the gi and then the blue of the other parts of his image. Is quite simple to color. And then once we've got the flat image, you can see already how quite crisp and cool it looks. So we're going to go through and add the first layer of cell shading, and this is just a slightly darker skin tone, and keeping it consistent with the rest of the image. So going through the arms, shading it in that sort of direction, making sure that the light looks like it's a consistent sort of light. Going through and adding it to all the different parts of his skin. And then the next thing we're going to do is add what we call a rim light. So adding this really faint, almost white skin color to the edge of the image. Now this doesn't have to be done in all images, but it adds an extra source of light, which I believe makes the image pop quite a lot. And it's quite a common technique used in film and art and all of that stuff. So I'm doing so with all the other layers of the image, so making sure I do a shade of dark with the blues and the oranges, and then a rim light on the edges of a very, very light blue and a very, very light orange. And once I've finished the basics, all of that, you can see how much it pops. It's quite a simple method of coloring, and now I'm going to add an extra layer with an airbrush. So I'm just going through over the edges on the right side with a slightly lighter color, and then with a slightly darker tone, I'm going on the left side. And this rounds out the flatness of the cell shaded image. Now this doesn't have to be done because cell shading can be quite effective on its own, but in some cases it can be quite cool to kind of add that extra dimension of smoothness. And I've gone and done that with the rest of the image with the blues and oranges, and now I'm finally adding a bit of a background. So going through with a polygonal lasso tool and selecting random segments, some large, some small, some with a wider gap and some with a thinner gap in between it. And then behind that I'm going to paint the orange, and you'll get this nice sunburst effect. And finally, just to kind of add another dimension to the background so it's not so flat, after painting the whites of the eyes and the teeth, I go through and add a flare behind him, so which is a bit of a white gradient, just a radial gradient going out. And then finally I burn the edges of the image, lower the opacity, and that rounds off the image and frames it. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this short tutorial, and if you want to see something in more detail that I've done in this video, make sure to check the link in the description, and feel free to check out my channel while you're there.